శ్రీ సచ్చిదానంద సద్గురు సాయినాథ్ మహారాజ్ ki jai. The Supreme Master by Ekkirala Bharadwaj Garu. Chapter 4, The King of Kings. Sri Swami Samarth was not conditioned by any of the social distinctions between man and man. The rich and the poor, the educated and the illiterate were all same to him. All depend equally on the mercy of God. It is then highly improper for such mortals, however noble they might be by birth, to show off their greatness, especially in the presence of saints whom they consider to be the manifestations of the divine. For spiritual perfection far excels all types of temporal power. Thus, Jesus Christ was called the King of Kings. This title applies equally to all perfect saints. How true is this can be seen from the contents of this chapter. Maloji Bhonsle was the ruler of Principality Samsthan of Akkalkot. He was a great devotee of Swami Samarth. There were occasions when the Swami too walked freely into the royal palace. The Raja used to visit Cholappa's Mutt every day to pay his respects to the Swami. Once, on the festive occasion of his birthday, the Raja came with all his royal insignia and peasantry to receive the blessing of the Swami. The prince wore his crown and all his ornaments and came riding on his elephant, accompanied by his wife's attendants and his guard. He walked into the mud and bowed before the Swami. The latter did not at all like the show of the Raja, but he kept silent and did not even glance at the royal visitor. After a few moments of embarrassment, the Raja tried to draw the attention of Swami, and so he again bowed to his feet. The Swami was enraged and at once slapped the Raja. The crown fell to a distance of 20 feet under the impact of the blow. The stupefied and shocked prince stood dumb, feeling his cheek. Then the Swami said, "Your royal dignity is proper only to your palace and your assembly of ministers. This is not the place for that. We can make any number of toy kings like you." Even after the Raja used to leave his coach 3 or 4 furlongs away from, ever after, the Raja used to leave his coach 3 or 4 furlongs away from Cholappa's Mutt and walk like any other visitor, all the way into the august presence of the Swami, and he used to dress himself plainly as an expression of his humility. The one wish of the Raja was for offspring. He prayed silently to the Swami to bless him with a son. Soon his wish was granted and his wife conceived. However, he was haunted by the question whether the child would be a son or a daughter. One day, Sri Swami Samarth asked him for a pair of bangles. Often he was also found playing the woman by sitting before the hearth and so on. From all these, the Raja concluded that Swami was indicating the birth of a daughter to him. Thought pained him a little, for he yearned for a successor. One day, when the wish passed through the Raja's mind while sitting before the Swami, the latter smiled and said, "Light the cannonball." It was evident to Raja that the Swami has granted him a son. Indeed, he had a son, and the birth of the royal successor was announced to the world by the Raja in the manner specified by the royal Guru. Cannons were fixed, and Raja himself personally distributed candy to the people. Strange were the ways in which Sri Swami Samarth taught right conduct to his devotees. Once two of his devotees had a quarrel. Then he called the more quarrelsome of the two and put in his palm a live ant. Thereby he wanted to teach that man should have at least as much spirit of the love and cooperation with his fellows as an ant has for its species. Once the Swami visited the royal palace, and the Raja received him with due respect and took him to the family shrine. The Raja and the saint sat on a swing. The priest was grinding a sandalwood into paste. At that moment, a rat came there and tried to eat the ghee in the lamp intended for worship. The priest, enraged at desecration, threw the heavy sandalwood at the rat forcefully. The poor creature was badly hit and it died on spot. The priest was happy and said, "That's it, that's what you deserve." As he picked up the dead rat and was going out to throw it away, the Swami snatched the dead rat from him and started playing with it, passing it to and fro through a big iron link in the chain that supported the swing. Then he took it in the palm and said to it lovingly, "Get up, dear one, and go your way." Then the rat came to life and immediately ran away. The Raja and the priest were astounded by the miracle. The Swami taught them the law of love that Siddhartha once taught a hunter. That the swan wounded by a hunter's arrow belonged rather to Siddhartha, who who saved it, than to the one who tried to take away his life. Appa Sahib Mane was a member of Royal Court of Akkalkot. He was much devoted to the Swami. In spite of his best efforts, he could not fix up a match for his marriageable daughter, Jamuna Bhai. Once he put his problem before the Swami, the latter said, "Why fear? I have fixed up Khandya for her." The name was a shorter form for the proper name Khande Rao. Soon after, the girl's marriage was settled with the Prince of Baroda of the same name. Not only was Appa Sahib's problem solved, but his status was also thereby elevated. Once the said Appa Sahib was laid up with typhoid. His condition became worse, and so he could not go for his daily visit to the Swami. One day, the Swami himself visited his house. At that time, Appa Sahib was lying on his bed unconscious. The Swami then touched him thrice on his foot, sat by him for a little while, and went away. Appa Sahib started recovering from the very moment and was perfectly cured in 3 days. Once Bhima Rao had a huge swelling on one side of his head. It was so ugly to see that people made fun of him by describing him as a two-headed man, and Bhima Rao felt mortified by it. As he knew that ochre colored flowers are very dear to Swami, one day he took such flowers as a offering to him. On seeing him, Sri Swami Samarth laughed loudly and said, "Look here, the two-headed man is coming." When he saw that the Swami was also making fun of him, Bhima Rao felt miserable and silently prayed for his mercy. A few days later, during his afternoon nap, Sri Swami Samarth appeared in his dream and touched the swelling on his head. It immediately disappeared. Suddenly, Bhima Rao woke up and was pleasantly surprised to see that the swelling had really vanished and its loose skin was dangling. He could not restrain his joy. With tears of gratitude in his eyes, he ran to the Swami. The Swami looked at him and smiled with an understanding look. One night, even when all his devotees were seated around his couch, the Swami fell asleep and started snoring. A devotee by name Govind Rao had a doubt as to how a real yogi could sleep so deeply. For in books on yoga, he read that a real yogi never sleeps. He wondered whether the Swami was really a yogi at all. The moment the thought flashed in Govind Rao's mind in the Swami opened his eyes and said, "Eh, Sonar, your doubts are baseless." The next moment he was again snoring. Evidently, in spite of that, the Swami was fully awake even to the unuttered thoughts of those around him. Swami Samarth was never tolerant of hypocrisy and pretension. One day, when he was seated in the house of one Ganapat Rao Joshi, there passed along the road a sadhu of the Kabir Panth, with a veena in his hands, a rosary around his neck, and a devotional mark on his forehead. The refrain of his songs was, "So says this sadhu." The common folk were carried away by his appearance and were bowing to him. When he approached the Swami, the latter made some gestures which indicated the sadhu was an immoral fellow. Later verification proved that he had illicit contacts with a family woman. Baba Sabnis was original devotee of Sri Manikya Prabhu, a great saint who was also considered as an avatar of Lord Dattatreya. Once Sri Manikya Prabhu showed the Swami to Sabnis and said, "He is your Guru." Henceforth, Sabnis served Sri Swami Samarth with unswavering devotion. The brother-in-law of Sabnis was a famous expounder of Puranas but had no faith in the Swami. Once the Swami attended his exposition of the Puranas. Taking advantage of the situation, the Pandit insinuated against the Swami by saying that a true saint never needs cozy cushions for sleeping. Originally, the Swami slept on a piece of coarse sackcloth, but ever since Baba Sapnis had lovingly presented him with a soft cushion, the Swami started sleeping over it. The Puranic was referring to this. Swami kept quiet for the moment. On some other day, the Swami took the Puranic with him, went up a hill in the middle of the forest. The winter evening was unbearably cold after the sunset. The Puranic was shivering, his teeth shattered too. The Swami looked at him, smiled, lay down on the bare rock. While the well-clad Puranic was shivering, the Swami, who had nothing but his underwear Kaupina, slept happily on the cold rock. After some time, the Purani could not stand the cold nor had the courage to wake the Swami up, so he silently prayed to him. At once, Swami sat up and said, "Now, did you see my sleeping cushion?" It was only then the Puranic could understand that the Swami wanted to teach him a lesson. He at once fell at the feet and he at once fell at the feet of the saint who treated the soft cushion that Baba Sapnis gave him and the cold hard boulder with equal indifference. It is the ruinous to one's spiritual development to criticize great saints, and the Swami only wanted to save Baba Sapnis from such a ruin. It was only an act of love. It is laid down in the scriptures that if at the time of worship of the deity one's guru were to achieve there, the guru should be worshipped and not the deity. This truth was brought home by Swami Samarth to his devotee Chintopant in a striking fashion. This devotee used to believe that the Swami was an incarnation of Lord Dattatreya. There was in his family shrine the idol of Lord Vishnu. Once he resolved to offer worship to it and with 1 crore of tulsi leaves over a fixed period. But from the second day of puja towards Sri Swami Samarth came to Puja onwards, Sri Swami Samarth came to visit him precisely at the hour of worship. Naturally, Chintopant used to worship the holy feet of Swami with the tulsi leaves. On the last day and final day, he concluded the complete 16-fold worship, Shodashopachara Puja. The Swami was much pleased with his devotion. The devotee saw clearly a divine halo around the Swami's body. Tears of ecstasy stood in his eyes, and with a quivering voice he prayed to the Swami, "Bless me so that I might worship your holy feet every day." The Swami was highly pleased with his devotion and said, "Be it so," and left his house. A little later, Chintopant was thrilled with joy to see that on the wooden seat on which the Swami sat, the feet of the Swami were clearly imprinted, more clearly than any sculptor could have carved. Even today, these materialized padukas of Swami Samarth can be seen at the shrine preserved in the mutt of Sri Gajanan Maharaj of Akkalkot. Swami Samarth can be compared with the mythical wish fulfilling tree, the Kalpavruksha. The soul's hunger and thirst for righteousness would automatically be quenched in his presence. One of his devotees by name Joshi used to study Panchadasi of Vidyaranya along with the few of his friends. One day they got stuck in trying to interpret a difficult verse. They stopped the reading for the day and went for the darshan of the Swami. That day, the Swami did not allow them to return immediately but told them to sit, and he expounded the intricacies of Vedanta for them. The wonder of it was that the whole of his exposition was a lucid commentary on the difficult words which bogged them in their daily reading. Though the Swami seemed as though he was seated in one place, his inner consciousness was in fact fused with the one life consciousness in all creatures, and thus he knew what transpired within and without all people's minds everywhere. This is also born out of the following incident. One Moreshwar Rao Joshi earned for a long time for the Swami's darshan. The appearance of Swami in his dream one night had only intensified his longing. One day he told his wife Gopika Bai that he was leaving for Swami's darshan the next day and vowed to fast till then. It was severe summer and the Swami stayed on the mountain. Joshi started on his long walk. Though he was thirsty, Joshi decided not to drink water till he saw the Swami. How could the Swami be indifferent to his devotees' earning? Even when he was still half a mile away, the Swami was muttering to himself, "Is he mad? Not satisfied with the darshan I gave him in his dream 3 days ago, he is coming here all the way." Joshi thought that the dream vision he had earlier was only a result of thinking much about the saint. He could not recognize that it was a visitation. When he started climbing the hill, the Swami told his devotees, "Lo, he is coming." A few minutes later, when Joshi prostrated before him and Swami said, "I have already granted you my darshan 3 days ago. Why have you taken the trouble of coming all the way in the sun, abstaining from food and drink till now? It is better for you to return home immediately." Joshi was more than satisfied to know that the Swami was always watching him and was with him and within him, but he was slightly disappointed in being asked to return home immediately. After worshipping the holy feet of Swami, he sought permission to return. The Swami said, giving him a pair of padukas, take these with you for daily worship. Along with these, he also gave Joshi a pair of stone padukas and sent him with the words, in the future, these padukas will be kept on your samadhi, tomb. Give up all the other work. Take veena and the cymbals and go on singing Harikatha, the devotional trails of Lord Vishnu. Henceforth, this practice of Harikatha will stay in your lineage forever. Joshi got much more than what he asked for. He was blessed to spend all his life in devotional singing. The Swami's reference to the tomb denotes that Joshi's spiritual greatness would be recognized by the people in course of time, that not only he but all his descendants were blessed by the great saint. When Joshi reached home, he found his wife waiting for him without food and drink. Joshi understood the significance of master's orders that he could go home immediately. Soon after, he devoted himself to Harikatha, and after his wife's demise, he took sannyasa with the content of Swami. In his 75 years, one midnight he sat in the lotus posture, fixed his gaze at the In his 75th year, one midnight, he sat in lotus posture, fixed his gaze on Swami, and was given due samadhi, and the padukas of Sri Swami Samarth were installed over it. Even today, the Harikatha continues to be practiced among the descendants of the Joshi family. Sometimes, Sri Swami Samarth used to visit the house of a devotee, Moroba Kulkarni. The wife of Kulkarni was for a long time suffering from a severe and chronic pain in her abdomen. One day, unable to bear the pain any longer, she went to a well at midnight to commit suicide. Just at the moment the Swami woke up, one of his disciples, and without any reasons, bluntly ordered him to go to that well. That disciple obeyed and was surprised to find a lady there, the wife of the said Kulkarni, getting ready to commit suicide. He at once brought her to the Swami, who gazed her for a few seconds, and she was permanently rid of her pain. Among the visitors of Swami were great yogis with almost fantastic powers of transfiguration. One day, the Swami was seated along with his devotees in a garden called Khasbagh. Suddenly, the master got up and said to them, come, I shall show you a great saint. Then he proceeded to a big snake pit nearly 100 yards away and stood before that. Within a few seconds, a huge cobra came out of it, bowed before the feet of Swami in the reverence, and slowly left the place. The Swami also walked a few paces with it as though giving it a send off. Then, pointing at the creature, the Swami told his devotees, he is a great saint, do you understand? All his devotees offered their respects to the departing cobra. There was the other instances of Swami commanding the minds of creatures other than man. At Akalkot, there was a mischievous monkey which used to bite people and destroy property. The people were so harassed by it that a complaint was made to Raja, who requested a white man, Mr. Gardon, to shoot it down. The latter caught the monkey and was proceeding to the backyard of the temple of Lord Kandoba to kill it in a secret. In the meanwhile, the news reached the Swami, who said, tell him to get the monkey here, this is my order. No one had the courage to defy the guru of the prince. The monkey was promptly brought to Swami, who hugged and patted it very longingly and said to monkey, from now on don't bother anyone, do you understand? And then left the monkey. All the people of Akkarkot were surprised to find the monkey completely changed from that moment onwards. It became very tame, and like an ardent devotee, it used to come every day for the Swami's darshan. The Swami used to speak lovingly to it, garland it, and sometimes he made it wear a cap. The palace elephant of the Raja was Jawahar. One day it ran amok and started attacking people, crashing through houses, chasing people, flinging stones at them. The people were frightened and ran helter skelter. It was felt that the only course was to shoot it down. The Swami, who kept quiet till that moment, immediately got up and, resting his hands on his waist, he boldly walked towards the beast. On seeing him, Jawahar immediately calmed down and bowed before him in reverence. It is strange that in a world where men find it hard to recognize the greatness of saints, animals like Jawahar and the monkey could do it so unerringly. Rajas of other princess states also visited the Swami for his blessing. Shinde Holkar and Mallarao Gaikwad used to visit them frequently. The Rajas were jealous of the good fortune of Akkalkot in sheltering such a great saint. Gaikwad once decided to get the Swami permanently to Baroda. He assembled all his ministers and scholars to plan the course of action. The Raja proclaimed that he would reward anyone who would fulfill his mission with as much as wealth as he demanded. No one thought it is an easy task. However, a minister by name Tatya Sahib came forward to accomplish it. The king was overjoyed and asked him to take as much money, horses, elephants, and attendants as he needed for the purpose. Tatya Sahib vowed to fulfill his mission and came to Akkalkot with the invaluable gifts to the Swami and his devotees. Immediately after his arrival, he tried to win the hearts of the master's devotees by giving them liberal gifts. He communicated his mission secretly to Cholappa, the chief attendant of the Swami, and offered him a reward of 10,000 rupees in the event of his success. Foolish Cholappa was tempted, and for a moment he lost sight of good fortune of having the Swami at Takkalkot. One day, when the Swami was in pleasant mood, Cholappa approached him secretly and said, Swami, if you consent to shift to Baroda, I'll get a reward of 10,000. The Swami laughed loudly and said, Is that so? But the Raja there is not a great devotee. Cholappa's hopes were dashed to ground and he confessed his failure to Tatya Sahib. The Tatya Sahib tried other means. He employed several Brahmins to recite the holy book Sri Guru Charitra for the fulfillment of his wish, but it was all in vain. He decided to resort to cunning. He wanted to persuade the Swami to get into palanquin at midnight and smuggle him to Baroda by train from the Kadabgaon railway station. The Swami pretended not to know anything and, like a good child, quietly got into the palanquin. Tatya could not restrain his joy when he considered what a success his mission was going to be. He bolted the door of palanquin and reached the Kadabgaon station. They were just in time to catch the train, and Tatya Sahib came to take the Swami from the palanquin. When he opened the door, he was amazed to see that the Swami was not in it. Only then did he realize that it is not possible to do anything against the wish of Swami. Tatya had no choice but to return to Baroda with all his retinue. After some time, another employee in the royal court of Baroda, one Yashwantrao, offered to fulfill the same mission. On an auspicious day, he arrived to Akkalkot and approached the master. The Swami frowned and said, What is the matter? Yashwantrao did not have the courage to speak out his intent. After a while, the Swami again said cryptically, Handcuffs and lock. He repeated the words thrice, but none understood their significance. After 2 or 3 days, Yashwantrao received urgent summons from the Raja of Baroda and was put in prison immediately on his return on charges of complicity in a conspiracy against the throne. The cryptic prophecy of the master was fulfilled to the letter. It is useful to note in reflection that though Cholappa was just an ordinary man in his devotion could get the Swami to Akkalkot, though Mallara was a Raja, all his wealth and pomp could not touch the heart of Master. The recitation of Sri Guru Charitra also proved ineffective owing to his want of faith and devotion. The same holy book, when read by a pious widow, could win the grace of Swami to eat from her hand and to release her from her vows to Lord Datta that she would feed 1,000 Brahmins. We are reminded of the statement of Jesus Christ that even a camel might walk through the eye of a needle, but not a rich man through the gates of heaven. One of the closest devotees of Master was one Seshachari, who scrupulously followed the Vedic tradition of maintaining a sacred fire in his house. He lived by begging from 5 houses. Even when the Swami was in towering rage, Seshachari, unlike other devotees, could approach him fearlessly, and the Swami used to calm down on seeing him. Occasionally, he offered snuff to the Swami. In spite of this, the Swami, for some mysterious reason, never gave any sweet meat to Seshachari, even when he gave the same to all other devotees. Once Seshachari decided to ask him for it, but from the next day onwards, the master used to evade him, pretending to be asleep whenever Seshachari visited him. The latter was baffled by the master's conduct. He realized that his desire for sweetmeats was responsible for all this and vowed never to crave for anything. He even punished himself for what he had done, keeping little balls of cow dung in his mouth. He said to himself, May this be my lot. May this be my lot if ever I desire anything. May I ever remember that all desires are as foul as dung. At the same moment, Swami Samarth, who was seated in his usual place, started laughing very loudly and happily, holding his belly in both his hands. Indeed, what can afford greater joy to a guru than to note that his disciple had overcome desires? Patwardhan, the Raja of Sangli, once came for Swami's darshan with all princely gifts. He did not like that the value of his gifts should be noticed by anybody, and he concealed previous precious diamonds in pieces of milk sweets and presented them to the Swami. Without even as much as touching his sweets, the Swami roared at the visitor. They might be diamonds to you, to me they are the same as stones. Take them away. Was he not the king of kings and all other kings mere paupers before him? There is no evidence of the Swami having ever read any books, yet there are many instances of great Pandits testing him and realizing their own inadequacy in the process. Once a lady by name Srimati Siva Bhai brought her son to the Swami and said, My son has lost his sight from the moment he was invested with the sacred thread. Please grant him sight again. The Swami replied, Shortly, 5 devils are arriving here to test me. As soon as they arrive, his sight will be restored. Just as the Swami said, in a short while, 5 short and sturdy Brahmins arrived. Their dress and ornaments indicated that they were eminent scholars. They came to test the Swami, but after arriving in his presence, they started discussing among themselves in Kannada and Sanskrit language as to how they should proceed to test the Swami's worth. After consultation, they bowed to Swami with feigned humility. Then the Swami said to the blind boy, Ganesh, come here. Speak out what question these devils have in their mind and answer them. The boy stood before the Swami and bowing to him said in surprise, How do I know it? The Swami smiled and saying, Is that so? Took the garland from his own neck and placed it around the boy's neck. Then he picked up 2 flowers and touched his eyes with them. The boy felt a powerful thrill, as though some great energy has passed through his spine. He at once stood up and promptly spoke out all the questions the visitors had in their minds and answered them all by himself, citing authorities from all renowned scriptures. The visitors were dumbfounded. They quietly bowed to Swami and stood up to leave. The Swami at once flew into rage and addressed the chief of the visitors. You have come to test me only because you heard that I am accepting food from the people of all castes immediately, and you have tested me. Now I tell you this, you were born by the illicit contact of your mother with a man named Imam Baksh Musalman. The Pandit at once realized how perilous it was to test the Swami and begged his pardon. The Swami at once calmed down and told the Pandits that hearty repentance, like the holy Ganges, can completely purify a man. He exhorted them to mind their ways in future. The blind boy regained his sight from that moment. Besides, he also retained all the scholarship with which Swami had blessed him. The incident was personally witnessed and recorded by Vaman Bhuva Brahmachari. Vishnu Bhuva Brahmachari was a great scholar, Vedantin, and orator. Charmed by his excellence, the Raja of Akalkot once invited him to his court. Vishnu Bhuva came to Akalkot and one day he put a very recondite question in Vedanta to the Swami. What is Brahma Tadakara Vritti? The Swami smiled and kept quiet. The Brahmachari felt that it is not proper to call the old man who could not answer his question a Swami or a master. Besides, he went on proclaiming to his friends outside that Swami could not answer his questions. But the Swami did not mind it. One day, the Brahmachari dreamt that thousands of scorpions were moving towards him and one of them had even stung him. He screamed so loudly that a Parsi devotee who slept by him woke him and asked him why he cried. The Brahmachari described his dream. After a few days, the brahmachari again visited the Swami and asked him what Brahmatadakara Vritti meant. The Swami smiled and said, "Stupid! You screamed at the very sight of 1,000 scorpions in a mere dream. How dare you speak of Vedanta? Do you think that Brahmatadakara Vritti is such a simple thing? It cannot be obtained through eloquent discourses or verbal jugglery. Get out of here." When the brahmachari visited him on the latter occasion, not only did he explain the metaphysical concept lucidly, but also bestowed on him the actual experience and made him a saint. Only then did the brahmachari realize that Swami was an avatar of Lord Dattatreya. A great scholar from Sringeri Mutt, Shastri by name, came for Swami's darshan and stayed with a devotee by name Babdekar. One day, Shastri returned from after the darshan of the Swami and said to Babdekar, "Of what use is this saint? He looks quite like a madman. He cannot elevate you spiritually at all. Why, even I am better than he in that I can make you at least a great scholar." For the moment, Bhavdekar's faith in the Swami flickered. He had a passing thought of going away with the Shastri. That night, both of them slept inside the room after bolting the doors. At midnight, Bhavdekar woke up and was amazed to find the doors opening of their own accord. Swami Samarth was standing at the threshold staring at him and then said, "When are you going to become a Shastri, a scholar in Shastras? This Shastri has not conquered even the six internal enmities like lust and hate." Then the Swami disappeared as mysteriously. Next morning, when Bhavdekar visited the Swami, latter smiled at him understandingly. Then he fell on his feet with regret and left the thought completely.